Hello everyone and welcome back to the weekly English shooting live stream. Of course, this is an interactive stream, so if there's any topics other than ones that come up that you want to bring up, or any questions that you have about shooting, how to get your application filled out, to get your certificates, even just entering the sport and joining a club, please use that chat box, get involved, and also have your opinions heard. I don't care if you agree or disagree. If you have an opinion on something, get the discussion going and join in the chat. Also, don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit everything you can, because it really does help grow the channel, reach new people, and get more people into the sport, which is what we need more than anything. I always say it's a numbers game. We get more certificate holders, more people in this sport, we will have more political clout, and we will have more influence over our MPs. The more people that vote that get into this sport, the more that we're going to be listened to. So let's try and share far and wide and get as many people into this sport as possible. But I hope you have all had a fantastic past week. It's been a busy one for myself as usual, and of course no video this week. I'm going to try a double video week, so try and get something out this weekend and then have something out early next week, so to make up for it. My New Year's resolution for this year was to make sure I stuck to at least one video a week and the live stream, so I want to keep that up. But yes, a big thanks again for everyone joining. It's not all good news this evening, the main topic being, again, the gift that keeps on giving. COVID has now stopped a number of police forces across the country from processing applications. There are some positive points for tonight, which we will get onto. Of course, it is SHOT Show at the moment. It is on my bucket list to go out to SHOT Show in some capacity at some point in my life. Just don't have necessarily the budget to be able to do it for the channel now, unless somebody wants to start a GoFundMe page for next year. That would be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, lots of stuff going on because it's when loads of new products are released, and there's a few that have caught my eye, so we'll be talking about those later on. So yes, COVID. Now, you would think by this point everyone across the world would have got into this new normal. I fucking hate that phrase, but it is what it is. You adapt and you overcome, you carry on. And certainly within the UK at the moment, we've just had the Prime Minister remove a load of restrictions and basically say that we are on our way out of it. Like, the worst is behind us. We're going to drop all the restrictions. He's sending all civil service personnel back to work, scrapping work from home, this, that, and the other. It very much is a drive to say, look, we need to just learn to live with this like we've lived with disease and flu and cold for a very long time prior. And the only departments that really don't seem to get the message on that are firearms licensing. We've discussed this point many times over the previous, well, certainly the previous couple of months, but of course over the past 2 years. But they just seem to be incredibly stubborn in not wanting to grant applications. There are now a total of 7, I think it is, police forces across the UK that are using COVID as an excuse not to be processing certificates, and they consist of North Yorkshire. They were the first to actually come out and shut up shop, and since we've had Thames Valley, Northamptonshire, Cambridgeshire, Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire and Hampshire police. I really don't get what the justification is. Hampshire was, I think, the second one to follow, and they will use it. I did have it up. I've got another page on their website up now, and I can't get back to it, which is fantastic. Prepared as always. Let's go back to, and I'll bring up the message that is up, like their reasoning for not processing certificates at the moment. Okay, the main sort of headline is COVID. But it just seems, well, as far as COVID excuses go, a pretty weak one. I'm fine, go away. COVID-19 priority for boosters and vaccinations means delay on GP forms. So we have discussed this in the past, that you can understand potentially GPs being quite busy at the moment, but them using the GPs as a reason, not, it's not stopping them from doing their job. Firearms licensing departments do not have anything to do with giving out vaccinations, the strain on the NHS, this, that, and the other. Pretty much the GPs are going to be delayed. They're going to have a lot more work on at the moment. They are prioritising those boosters and the vaccines. And Hampshire have gone, oh, well, of course, there's no possible way that you can get a GP form done privately, when we know there are a number of private companies that are still processing GP forms. In fact, Connors was just going through a renewal, and he's had one from, I think it's MediCert, I think yesterday it came through, so they're still managing to do it. So using this excuse of GPs, it really doesn't hold up. And interestingly, on the application page, this little box has changed. So due to COVID-19, we are temporarily unable to process any new grant applications. Renewal applications are still being processed. This used to have a little tagline on the bottom of it that said, if it is for professional or vocational reasons, they would still process the application. That has now disappeared, so they are not doing any applications for any reasons, which, in their defense previously, if it's just a hobby, you could sort of justify it. There's no need for you to have it. That doesn't make it right for not processing it. But still allowing people that need it for their job, that need it for their profession, again, that's sort of like, okay, those are going to cause difficulties for people going forward. To now remove that is just absolutely disgusting. It's going to affect people's earnings. It's going to affect people's careers if they're not able to go and get the mandatory certification for the equipment that they need to be able to do their job. It really is just wearing thin, this whole excuse of COVID now, and yet no one seems like, there doesn't seem to be anything that can be done. BASC have used or have made sounds to the effect of looking into legal action. I don't know if this is just posturing, or maybe it's just a bit of a show of power to the firearms licensing, like, if you don't buck your ideas up, you're going to be getting a letter from our solicitor. Whether or not there is any legal basis to be able to challenge them in the courts, no, is there actually the function there to take firearms licensing to court because they're not fulfilling their statutory duty, or are they sort of just trying to bluff them into doing their jobs? Again, when we were first in lockdown, when COVID first sort of struck the world, you can sort of understand, no one knew what was going to happen, nobody knew what was going on, and it was better to be safe than sorry. But right now, no other industry seems to be as frozen up or maybe against doing any sort of work. Everyone seems to have got back to normal by now, so why can't firearms licensing? If you want to put your tinfoil hats on and you want to start talking about conspiracies, there is the well-known fact that many of these firearm licensing departments don't like giving out certificates. There is a most definite emphasis on reducing the amount of certificates out there and the amount of guns that are out there, and also restricting the amount of new applications that are issued, or certainly decreasing the amount of new certificates that are handed out. And for the departments that are like that, something like COVID just falls straight into their lap. There are many other ways for people to get GP forms. That's just not an excuse. I mean, North Yorkshire, whilst I think they might be using COVID as an excuse now, but that was all down to the new the new guidance. It's just an absolute mess, and they're continuing to get away with it. So, personally, if you've got an application in at the moment and you're being told, no, we can't do it, hold them to account. Always be polite, always be courteous and professional with them, because, you know, as prospective firearms owners, you are of good character, of course. You are an upstanding member of the public, so screaming down the phone at them isn't exactly going to tie up with that. But don't just take, oh no, we're not doing. Well, why? Like, are there people in the office at the moment? Yeah, so people are working. You know, you've answered my phone call, you've answered my email. Why can't you be processing my certificate? Our GP forms. Well, I'm using Medicert, so I can still get it. Please give me a reason why you're not processing my certificate. What is actually physically stopping you from being able to do it, other than just this almost sort of arbitrary decision to shut up shop? It would be interesting to know, you know, that in a case, in some ways, if all the firearms licensing department members, the FEOs and the office staff, if they were all at home and they were taking it that seriously, and they weren't in the office, you could sort of go, yeah, right, okay, well, they physically can't do their job because they're not in the office. But then that would actually piss me off even more, because these are people being paid full wage to sit at home doing nothing. So it's sort of like, what are you playing at? You're perfectly capable. You were doing face-to-face visits during the height of COVID, when it was at its most dangerous, let's say, and now all of a sudden you can't do it. You can't come face-to-face. And I think last week I used the analogy of, you know, have we stopped arresting people? You know, have we stopped holding court dates? Have we stopped all the other functions of the police because of COVID? No. So why are we stopping firearms licensing? Happy, yes, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Hampshire went one step further. It wasn't just shutting up shop and keeping everyone in a queue. They returned everybody's certificates. They returned everybody's application. It's just, you know, kicking a dog while it's down, right? It just seems that it's just completely unnecessary, other than to make it more of a barrier, to make it so people have to go through the process again. Would be very interested to find out. I wonder if they could extrapolate it and give it into a freedom of information. How many applications that were in originally weren't then reapplied when they open? What sort of, let's say, success rate are they having in getting people to not go through with their application because they've shut up shop for months and people have lost interest, or they've returned their applications and people just can't be asked to wait or to jump through the hoops anymore? It really is just this sort of disgusting tactic. Personally, what I think is to prevent more people from getting guns and getting certificates when they are lawfully, well, they meet all the lawful criteria to do so. Roy Clark, I got my GP form done just before Xmas in a week and a half. You know, GPs haven't shut up shop. They might be prioritising vaccines and stuff like that, but this is paid work for them as well. Let's not forget, a lot of GPs charge for this. It's money into their pocket. Why are they going to be turning that away? And at the end of the day, you can only be doing vaccines and boosters so many hours of the day. As far as I'm aware, there's no 24-hour service or 24-hour vaccination centres. There might be, if they are, they're few and far between. Why can't the GPs be doing GP forms in the off hours when they're not giving boosters or they're not giving vaccinations? And as far as I was aware as well, the majority of the country is now boosted and the majority of the country is now vaccinated. So surely it's time to ease off this COVID excuse and start getting back to their job and start doing things. And I remember there were a few comments before we started. Interesting, Brian, that you bring up Devon on it, wasn't you? It was Richard putting in to Devon and Cornwall. As far as I'm aware, whilst they are still open for applications, they aren't processing anything at the moment. The utmost priority when it comes to the functions of the firearms licensing in terms of, let's say, new applications, renewals, variations, this, that and the other, is renewals. they will always prioritize renewals over anything else, because the way that it works is if somebody's certificate expires, they're no longer they no longer have lawful entitlement, or they no longer are lawfully in possession of those guns. They don't have the what's the word, the power to be able to, not the power, you know what I'm trying to say. They legally can't be in possession of those firearms if their certificate expires. So they don't want that. They don't want people operating in the grey area. This is why in worst cases they extend it and they give it in writing, and there's mechanisms within the law for them to extend the certificates officially so that they're not expired. But having said that, whilst they prioritize the renewals, there is somebody that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago that has had a 6 months extension. So Devon and Cornwall are failing to be able to process renewals at the moment, unless there's anybody out there that can give a case for them getting their grant in Devon and Cornwall. I don't believe since August last year there have been any new grants issued, or any, well, certainly the renewals have slowed right down. That department is sort of burning all around at the moment. They've got this inquiry into what happened in the build up to the Plymouth shooting. They've got members of staff that are on leave. Let's just say, they've been suspended, so they're understaffed. They've got this investigation which is taking a lot of resource away from them. They're going back and checking, it's almost like double or triple the work, because they're going back and checking everything. Of course, they're also going in and knocking on people's doors and taking away their guns for absolutely no reason whatsoever. But that's not necessarily firearms licensing. That's more the police in general. So yeah, it doesn't look good for Devon and Cornwall. Whilst they may be accepting applications, as far as I'm aware, they have slowed right down, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see 12, 18 month, 24 month waits for initial grants for a shotgun or firearm certificate from Devon and Cornwall, because as soon as they get back to normal, as soon as the investigation's done, and I guess the relevant changes that are going to have to be made to that department, because we all know there are a number of failings leading up to the Plymouth shooting. Once that is all settled, their priority is going to be the renewals. It's going to be the people that have been waiting, that are on 6 months extensions or even 12 months extensions on their renewal. They're going to be putting the time into that, not necessarily giving out new grants. So that doesn't look particularly good. And yes, practical armory, exactly, the stopping certificates, this isn't just a hobby for some people, and certainly having new people in the sport helps a number of businesses. Magload, for instance, a lot of new shooters coming into the sport of practical shooting, and a lot of the practical disciplines, you need a firearm certificate to really throw yourself into. You need really a Section 1 shotgun. I'm not saying, it's always difficult to say this, because yes, you really do need a Section 1 shotgun. You can still go and do it with a Section 2. Don't be put off and not do it because you haven't got a Section 1. But really, to shoot at the top level, you need a Section 1 shotgun. You need a long barrel pistol. And to be able to go and train as much as possible, you really need your own guns and your own certificate. So people not coming into the sport, that's a drop of sales all round for gun shops, for accessories, for cartridge and ammunition companies, even the organisations. They're not, organisations like the UK PSA. If people aren't able to get their gun or get their certificates, get their guns and get into the sport, it's lower numbers of people coming in and spending money. So it affects the industry all around, and that's why I think it's of the utmost importance that they continue to process these grants. It's gonna be interesting to really look at the statistics over the last 2 years comparatively. Let's say a few years on, we are going to see this massive dip, and when you sort of transfer that into the economy and financially into this industry, it's going to be a pretty big significant number that as an industry, we are losing that. Even the UK government, in terms of taxes paid, are going to be losing. Shotgun suppressor, yes or no? To be honest, like I never, I know you can get like the 410 hush powers, and I've seen like suppressors for. Oh no, I used one on a semi-auto. It was that was at the Northern Shooting Show. Yeah, like it's cool, and it they do suppress the noise. Personally, I don't think I would ever get the use out of it. You know, if you're going out there, you know, let's say you going and doing some roost shooting, and you know it's a lovely end to the evening, and there's people out in their gardens, and you know you're going to be near to houses or to near to the public, obviously within a, you know, let's say a safe distance if you're shooting, but there could be situations where it's going to be advantageous to have it, to not disrupt, you know, to cause a noise disruption to people, also to not scare other birds away, because as soon as you fire a shot, everything flies away, everything moves, and everything runs away. You know, at the end of the day, these are, yes, we can call them silencers, but that's not what they do. There is still some noise, so you're still going to scare everything off in your in your immediate vicinity. But in terms of what I end up using a shotgun for, be that clay shooting or practical shooting, there's no need for, certainly me, to have one for the use of a shotgun that I do. But yeah, they're not. It depends what you want one for, whether it's going to be a waste of money or not. But I can definitely see situations where it'd be advantageous. Just have to say hello to my mum. Thanks for joining in as always. And again, big thanks to everyone as well. They're a good number of regular people, which is always nice to see. Hampshire are on short staff at the moment. Again, but why? Why are they on short staff? You can understand, you know, if they were a little bit more transparent and they said, yeah, 50% of the workforce are currently off on leave, you know, they're isolating, we literally don't have the staff. That would be one thing. But they're saying that it's to help GPs and it's to help vaccination. That's not what's going on. Why are they short staffed? Is that by choice? Are they choosing to be short staffed? Well, you know, choose not to. Get them back in the office, get them back working. Is it the Fostech Origin available in the UK? David's saying no. There we go. Really, really simple, quick answer there. Processing, having tea and biscuits and watch the paperwork pile up. Yep, pretty much. Brian, they are processing all applications. Sorry, but you're wrong, Callum. Again, I can only go off of what I've been told. What I've been told is they're giving extensions for renewals. Why are they not processing renewals and they're processing grants? Whilst I want them to be processing grants, I can agree that it's probably more important for them to be doing renewals. It just doesn't, like, it doesn't stack up for me. Don't forget we're back onto an A now, as Boris has fucked up and wants diversion tactics. Yeah, I'm not going to get into necessarily the political reasons of why he's scrapping all the COVID restrictions. That's just the fact of it. We're getting on with things. We're coming out of these restrictions. Why can't firearms licensing get on with things? Mike, I'm moving to Hampshire next month from Surrey. Just got a variation which took 3 weeks in Surrey. That's a really bad move. Like, take it from somebody that has been in Hampshire for a very long time. The amount, well, I did actually live in Surrey for a year or so, but I didn't class it as my permanent residence, so I still had my certificates with Hampshire Firearms. Yeah, you're gonna have a bit of a shock coming from Surrey to Hampshire. Surrey is a very efficient force. They know their stuff. I mean, the head of Surrey Firearms is an avid shooter. You know, he's not just, he doesn't, oh, go out with a shotgun and do some clays. He does all the disciplines. He does as much shooting as he can. He's very knowledgeable about the sport, very passionate about the sport, and that's why they're so efficient. He's one of those head of firearms licensing that wants to be giving out certificates as long as people meet the criteria, not putting these barriers in place. And funnily enough, I've seen a number of times forces actually get Surrey down, and they either get FEOs or even the head of Surrey Firearms to come down and help them on complex matters. Very, very knowledgeable department overall, and they've been very good for a very long time. Whether or not having Bisley and the National Shooting Centre within Surrey as well, it seems to be quite a coincidence that where the National Shooting Centre is seems to be one of the best counties in the country. I'm sure there is some connection there, but yeah, they've always been good. I've heard of grants in a month. They're able to do first time applications within a month. I've heard of people being able to get 1-for-1 variations while they wait. They're very, very reasonable. I've heard stories of people phoning them up and going, look, really, really sorry, I need this done really, really quickly, for X, Y, and Z reason. This is what I want to do. I want to swap this gun for that gun. Any chance we can get this expedited? And they're like, yeah, come on down. Like, come tomorrow. We'll give you a half an hour appointment. We'll just talk it over. We'll update it on the system, print out your new certificates, and then you can walk away. And it's like, that's service. That's how they all should be. And again, we always say about the disparity and the inconsistencies across the country. If one county can do it like that, why can't another county? Why can't they all be doing grants and applications within a month? It is possible. So why can't they do it? Can you file a class action civil suit against these departments? I think that's what Bask is alluding to in terms of in terms of legal action, but I don't know how it would work. I'm not a legal professional. I'm not a lawyer, a solicitor, or a barrister, or whatever. I don't know the ins and outs of how that would happen. But Bask obviously feels there is some sort of mechanism to be able to do so. So yeah, I guess you could. Again, it's a very difficult for professional and vocational. Yes, you could demonstrate a loss of earnings. Yes, you could demonstrate an impact to the business. Maybe your reputation, because you're not able to offer some services to people. But in terms of a hobby, what's the loss? If you are purely doing it as a hobby, and let's forget, in terms of first time applications, you don't already have any guns, so it's like you're not necessarily losing something. So how can you equate that to sort of a tangible loss, and therefore what sort of compensation would it yield? Bask again use language like their statutory duty. So but is that, are you talking them more reprimands rather than compensation? Because if they're not doing their statutory duty, that becomes more of a legal, a legal matter. They're failing as a department. Heads need to roll. People need to be fired, or sanctions need to be issued in order to punish and move on. Tony Victor, it's a common mistake to consider all forces the same. They aren't. Different workloads, different resources, never mind the different attitudes. Yes. Well, like, first of all, in terms of tarring everybody with the same brush, of course, we have the good ones, we have the bad ones, and they all very different. And yes, there are, higher populated areas in the UK of firearms owners. You're going to have some counties with a few thousand. You're going to have some counties with tens of thousands. but then the equation is all the same. You know, in terms of the income that is generated, or the cost, you know, it should be you know, it should be done like, you know, university funding, where a university will receive X amount of money per pupil. I don't know how the funding is actually done, whether every county gets the same amount of money from the government, or whether they have to allocate it out of a big pot that they get, and some counties allocate, you know, less or more. I don't know. But there are areas of high firearms ownership. The numbers of people, or the number of firearms owners in the county or the area, there's no correlation between the good and the bad ones. You have counties where it's a very high population of firearms owners, and they're very, very slick and very efficient. And you have some places which are, you know, very sparse for firearms owners, and they are horrendous. There seems to be absolutely no correlation. The only sort of consistent theme seems to be the attitude. It is the attitude of the head of firearms licensing, the attitudes of chief constables, the attitudes of even FEOs that has the biggest effect. And again, Surrey seems to have a very positive attitude of firearms. We are here to give out certificates, and other firearms licensing set very much seem to be the you know, we will protect giving out, or we will resist giving out certificates at all costs, basically. Callum, who took your guns, FEOs or constables? In terms of physically, they were police officers. So it was a standard bobby that came round initially, and then we had to wait for armed police to turn up. I mean, complimenting them on their Glock and, you know, G36 probably wasn't the most appropriate thing at the time, but I couldn't help it. You know, it's like, I never thought I'd have a Glock 19 in the house, and yet here's one here. You know, so could you, like, you're taking all these, could you just leave that one? That would be great, thank you very much. But yeah, in terms of physically take, it was the constables. In terms of issuing the revocation, that was the head of Hampshire at the time. But anyway, the general long and short of it, things aren't getting better. Only more counties seem to be shutting up shop and stopping applications. So unfortunately, if you are in one of those counties, North Yorkshire, Thames Valley, Northamptonshire, Cambridgeshire, Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire and Hampshire, they're not processing applications at the moment, so there's no point sort of putting your application in. You might as well just wait until they reopen. So yeah, it's a bit of shitter, but there's nothing, I don't think there's nothing individually we can do, rather than make it clear that you know, you don't see any logical reason of why they can't be processing it, and it seems like a big excuse. And we just have to hope that the likes of BASC and maybe other organisations start throwing their weight around to pressure these forces to get back to work. On a slightly more positive note, a name that as soon as I saw it pop up, I recognised, because I ended up doing a video a number of years ago on this. Well, the article that actually sparked that video is now 7 years old, so it shows you how long ago it was, and also how long this channel's been running. But this was the original article, and it was written by George. Is that Monbiot? Monbiot? Let's just call him George. So George wrote this article, and it was like, the language in it was just absolutely disgusting. Like, you know, first of all, you say, you know, basically we pay people to go and shoot game, like the landed gentry are subsidised in order to do it. But the thing that really got my back up about this was this paragraph here. The police are furious. It costs them £196 to conduct the background checks required to ensure shotguns are issued only to the kind of dangerous lunatics who use them for mowing down pheasants. So it's like, you can tell that this guy is an anti. You can tell this guy really doesn't like the fact that people own guns, and that, of course, anybody that wants to go and shoot a pheasant is, of course, a dangerous lunatic, which is a bit of an oxymoron there, because in order to have a gun, you're most definitely not a dangerous lunatic, unless you live in Devon and Cornwall, and they just seem to hand them out to anybody. But what's really interesting is very not just anti-gun, but sort of anti-hunting, and I think anti-trophy hunting as well. But there's been this article. I haven't had a chance to actually go and read this article in full yet, but it's sort of, fair play to the guy. He's eating a bit of humble pie, and he's admitting that perhaps he didn't have the sort of the full picture or the full understanding, which again sort of draws into the question, why the fuck is he writing for a national newspaper and sort of controlling a narrative when he obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. But this is all about trophy hunting, and basically saying that, look, he still hates it, right? He still hates trophy hunting. He's definitely not going to do it, but he's recognized that actually campaigning against it has damaged conservation efforts, because no matter what you think about trophy hunting, it raises a significant amount of money for conservation efforts. And the article, Celebrity Power Undermining Global Conservation Efforts, Scientists Warn. It's like, yeah, the celebrities are saying one thing, the scientists are saying other. Who should we listen to? Of course, everyone listens to the celebrities, because we're all fuckwits. But, the scientists, then, they're not wrong on this one. So, we saw this, and we touched upon this in the channel back when the British shooting show came under fire, because they had a number of trophy hunting agents that attended the show, and basically the NEC looked up and they were like, yeah, well, either you don't have those trophy hunting agents there, or there's going to be no show. So they were effectively forced into not allowing any trophy hunting agents, and it just seems so backwards, because you get these animal rights activists, and they're trying to save the planet and save these animals, and what they actually end up doing is hurting the conservation efforts. These activists aren't raising hundreds of thousands of pounds or millions of pounds to run these reserves, to pay for the food, the medication, the gamekeepers, the equipment, and all that and the other. And again, whether you like it or not, some rich dentist that wants to go and spend $1 million to shoot a lion that was going to have to be euthanized anyway, it's like win-win. And this is certainly something that I am completely on board with. I mean, you can start getting into the discussion of, would you shoot a healthy animal to one healthy animal to save 10? Or would you shoot one to raise enough money to then be able to rear 10 more? So that's sort of a more complex discussion, although logically you shoot the animal and then you have 10 more later down the line. But in terms of a wounded animal, or an animal that has to be put down or euthanized because it's in pain, because it's no longer able to survive out there within the reserves, and it would just be cruel to let it go on and die a very horrible death. It's like, well, hang on a minute, we can pay thousands of pounds to fly in a vet to euthanize it, with huge cost to us and no gain to any other animal. We can let the animal just suffer, so it doesn't cost us anything, but this animal is going to be in pain. Or somebody's going to come and pay us hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to do the job for us. It's like, which one would you choose there? And it's whilst for me that seems like a very logical equation, the antis just don't seem to get it. But the tide seems to be turning on it. Like, getting an article like this out of the Guardian and getting a writer that has previously been so anti on all levels, and there's been a number of articles from this George guy that's anti-shooting, anti-hunting, and to have them at least recognise the good that trophy hunting does. Again, whether you agree or not with the act of it, it's inarguable that it does a hell of a lot of good in the long run, paying to protect and rear and reintroduce a number of different species. And I think from memory there was a whole basically just from the money raised from trophy hunting, they were able to increase the numbers from like a few dozen of this animal to, I think it was one particular lion breed, that they were able to get it back up into the hundreds, if not thousands, of animals out there in the wild, purely from the money raised from trophy hunting. So it does a lot of good. And then there was also the more local impact, that when somebody goes out there and they go and shoot game, not necessarily a trophy hunt for, say, a lion or an elephant or something like that, but they just go and shoot run of the mill game out there. They're after the head, they're after the trophy. The meat is actually then given to villagers. It's given to local people and local community, and they're able to have a big communal barbecue out of it. So there's so many benefits from it, and it's just good to see a paper like the Guardian actually recognizing that and potentially balancing out the horrendous damage that they've done in the past. Thomas, all right, Callow, I've got COVID at the moment. Sorry for holding this all up. It's not your fault. Made your first move into PSG yesterday and got my supernova. Brilliant. Good choice. I mean, personally, I would go for a standard gun, because gentlemen shoot standard, Neanderthals shoot standard manual, but there we go, each to their own. If you want to make it go faster, you know where to go, maglo.co.uk. Lots of go faster bits for the supernova on there, and if you want arguably one of the best, you want some of the best modifications done to it, get in contact and Connors can work his magic on it. Good news, Franklin Armory now has a binary trigger for Glocks. It's awesome. Well, that makes a very nice segue, because this was one of the things that I wanted to get into. Of course, it's SHOT Show at the moment, or it has been SHOT Show. Loads of new products. This is like the main event. I know there's IWA, and there's a lot of products that are released for, say, IWA, and arguably I think IWA is bigger, but the big announcements are always for SHOT Show. And it's always very interesting as well, and well timed, I think, the British Shooting Show, because it's right after SHOT Show. All these new products you tend to get hold of at the British Shooting Show. So yes, out of the new products that have been released, it was most definitely the Franklin Armory binary trigger. I want one. We're going to try and see if we can get one in America, and some news and a point on that in a minute. But as far as I'm aware, this is a standard Glock that has just had the binary trigger fitted, so no, it's not like a G18 or something. But just watch. It pretty much goes full auto. Oh, actually, it's got a switch on there. Or is that? Maybe it is G18. But I'm pretty sure he's shooting that in semi, and it basically goes full auto. It's a really cool bit of kit. Of course, for those of you that don't know what a binary trigger is, basically it releases around, or fires around on the release of a trigger. So you pull the trigger, it goes off. You release the trigger, it also goes off. Now, and I completely get it. It's very sort of the same reason. It's like why the Mars the Mars VZ58 could be considered dangerous. The binary trigger could also be considered dangerous. At the end of the day, you don't have as far as I'm aware with the mechanism, you don't have a choice not to fire that second round. Like, technically, if you'd pulled the trigger and you really don't want to fire it, you could, drop the mag, pull the bolt back or something like that. But, it's sort of like a fundamental thing about gun safety of you being able to control and you dictate every round that is fired. of course, you know, there's some exceptions like a minigun. Like you can't, you know, I only want to fire 126 rounds. Oh wait, I went over by a couple of hundred. There are situations where that's not completely possible, but a lot of people giving the binary triggers some stick in terms of their safety. I don't see any, you know, potential. Well, why would the military or police go for a binary trigger? They would just have full auto, right? So it's purely just a bit of a gimmick. It's purely just a bit of a fun. And I think certainly out in the States, it's just a middle finger up to the ATF, you know, like, yeah, that's right. You can't give us, you know, we can't have full autos, but we'll just make this drop-in trigger that's completely legal, and we get full autos anyway in any semi-automatic that we can get our hands on. What I see this for is a bit of fun down the range, not not an environment where it's going to be necessarily critical that you are controlling every single round. It's going to be a mag dump, isn't it? It's one of these watch this moments where you're just gonna empty the gun in a safe direction as quickly as possible. So yes, a 10 out of 10 for fun factor, but I'm gonna give it like a 2 out of 10 for like practical application. But yeah, I absolutely want one. I've said before, my bucket list gun to shoot, like top of the list, is a G18. Obviously, binary trigger Glock wouldn't necessarily be the same, but it might be a little way of a halfway house. But yeah, we'll see if we can get one out there, and I can have a bit of a play with it. Anthony, the Jerry Michalak switch. Actually, on that note, I was meant to get the video up, ready to show you. So I assume that you guys, you civilized shooters out there, if you're worth I'm trying to spell and talk at the same time, never a good thing. If you're worth your salt, basically, you're gonna know who Jerry Michalak is, and probably going to be subscribed to his channel. I'd highly recommend, like, there's loads of really sort of golden nugget bits of information that he releases out there and he talks about, and you do learn a lot from his videos. But in terms of bit about sort of learning about, well, it's not really, the video is not really about him, but you end up learning a lot about him, a lot more than what's sort of already out there. But you also learn a lot more about Lena Michalak, his daughter. So it was, I think, their most recent video. Highly recommend watching this. I watched it the other day. So it's Get Some 2. It's basically, you know, how Lena Michalak got to where she is now. But they talk a lot with Jerry, and you learn a lot about their mindset, the way they do things, and also what it takes. So, you know, it's a good long watch, or try and get it on your TV, sit down and, you know, with a beer and watch it. And funnily enough, it's going to take me forever to find it. Oh, is it? There was actually a picture of a number of British shooters, because she talks about the world shoot, and this was sort of a really interesting point in the video. They're talking about their driving factors, and sort of Jerry Michalak sort of makes no bones that, yeah, the world titles are really nice, but he doesn't really care about them. He actually more cares about the world records. That's why he has so many. And again, another interesting thing, if you want to go on to Wikipedia, I'll bring it up now. Always, I spend a lot of time looking at these, going, if I really dedicate myself to like one of these world records, could I take one off the man himself? And usually I end up doing the calculation of how many rounds I'd have to shoot and how much that would cost, and then I go, no, that's not going to be doable. But the amount of world records that Jerry Michalak holds is absolutely incredible, and they're all really like cool records. So, and a lot of the times as well, it's like who previously held the record. He did. So you can see these are all the world records that he currently holds, and it's, you know, fire one shot at 1,000 yards with a 50 BMG starting low ready, 2.1 seconds, or it's the really, it is the lightning speed, 5 shots from a 50 AE pistol, 0.25 seconds, sorry, 0.82 seconds. But I think this is probably the one that everyone knows, or these two that, no, those two that he's known for. Fire 8 shots from a revolver on a single target, 1 second. Fire 6 shots, reload, fire 6 shots from one revolver, 2.9. It's just absolutely just incredible. But they're talking about this, they're talking about what drives them, and Jerry is very much focused on the world records, and I guess picking up world records in all of these different ways does make you a naturally good shooter, and then you can go on to win national and international competition, as he has done so many times. But Lena is very much the world titles. She doesn't care so much for the world record. She wants the world titles. You know, and she's got a number of them. So yeah, it's really, you know, I spend a lot of time looking at the mindset of these sorts of people, and you know, how can you build that into maybe your training or your own mindset, or you know, the way that you set out to achieve goals. And I think there's if you watch the video in its entirety, there's a lot that you can pick out from that and go, actually, if I want to be the best, this is the sort of approach that I need to have. And interestingly, again, and I say this, or I've said this, I think, consistently, I will always tell you which way I find something, or I will recommend the best way that I know how to do something, or the best gun that I think is out there, if you ask for an opinion on guns. But I've always said, you know, you've got to find your own thing. You've got to go out and try things and experiment. And very similar ilk from Lena as well. A lot of her techniques, most people, I think even her dad Jerry included, they go, that's not how you do it. And she's like, yeah, but that's how I do it for me. And it's obviously working for her. I mean, if you've ever seen her pistol grip, let me like, I don't know how it works, but it works. Let's bring that up. I mean, yeah, she's not exactly bad with a pistol. So there you go. That is her sort of competition pistol grip. You know, it sort of breaks everything that any instructor has told me how to hold a handgun out there. At least she's not teacupping. Like, I suppose you could argue that. But yeah, she basically says, like, you know, look, I can, yes, we can. The way that she gives training is like is giving you the tools for you to be able to go out and find what works best for you. And funnily enough, I was having that conversation with somebody today. I hope they're watching, about scopes. You know, like Connors and I at the moment, we're running a red dot as our primary optic for mini rifle, which is very different to what the majority of other people are doing, and we're saying, well, that's working well for us. Does that mean it's going to work well for you? I don't know. Perhaps you're going to prefer to go down the more traditional 1 to 6 or 1 to 10 variable optic, and then, you know, a 45-degree red dot. You need to go out there and explain, and this is why people always get, say, ripped for going into some gun groups out there on Facebook and other forums. Is like, which shotgun should I go and buy? And all you're ever going to get advice from are, you know, all people are only ever going to say, buy the gun that I bought. You know, it's like a brand loyalty thing, isn't it? So yeah, again, very interesting video. Go over to Jerry Michelet's channel and check that out. Definitely worth 44 minutes. Was that Lena or Jerry's wife? No, that was Lena Michelet. Not his wife. I don't think his wife shoots that much anymore. I think she's actually retired from competition. In terms of other products that have been released on SHOT Show, so obviously we talked about the binary trigger. This looks really interesting. I've seen stuff talked about very similar systems in the past, but it's sort of like a gamer's wet dream brought to real life. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's the Maztec X4 FCS, and it's a Magpul and Maztec collaboration. So I believe like Maztec are doing the sort of main electronics and software of it, and sort of hardware, and Magpul are doing the maybe the manufacturing side of it, the case side of it, the plastic side of it, because obviously they're very good at making various accessories. But what it is like a live, I believe, a live round count, but also a live ballistic calculator that can pretty much be bolted on to any scope, any sort of, I think 30 or 32 mil was it, but it like connects, like, I don't know the detail. I've gone searching for things about it, and I still can't find. I see like little snippets and no like real actual sort of, what was Z folding? Okay, that's pretty cool as well. But as far as I'm aware, it's got like a live round count in it, so that you've got this heads up display, so you can see how many rounds are in your magazine. Now, for a battlefield application, so a war military application, incredibly valuable. It's just one thing that you don't have to be worried about or thinking about. It tells you when you're getting low, you know when to change the mag. You don't have to be counting those rounds or having a look at the window to see what you've got left. But what I could see this being really powerful for, certainly in a military application, is orchestrating. Is if you have live feeds of how many rounds like each soldier has, who's running low, who's plentiful, you can coordinate an attack, coordinate resources, live, and make sure that you're not going to send a group of people that are low on ammunition into a big firefight. If you know when a whole team is going to be running low on ammunition, or even within a team, if you've got a team of 6, 8, 10 people, and one of them is running low on ammunition, which one in the team has the most ammunition. They can share, they can exchange. So in terms of sort of operational, hugely powerful tool, and a hugely powerful set of information that can be relayed back to sort of back to base. But yeah, having this heads up and ballistics calculator, I've seen scopes that have done it themselves. I've seen other similar bits of equipment, but the fact that this is Magpul and Magpul's on board with it is, I think it's going to be incredibly interesting to see where it goes and what comes of it. I think they're expecting it to be the end of the fourth quarter 2022, so we've got a little bit of a wait, but yeah, on the Maztec website there is a few more details on it. So obviously they've got working prototypes, but the highlights: real-time customizable ballistic calculator with environmental and internal sensors, meets to 30 and 34 millimeter scopes that it can fit. Yeah, okay, a bit of sales. It's made from all of this and it's made to these standards. But yeah, very powerful bit of kit, and I think it's going to be interesting to see those out of the wild and see what people do with them. Are there any particular, I don't know, it's always like an abundance and just an absolute pile on of new products and information. It always takes a couple of weeks to really to take in everything that happens from SHOT Show. Is there anything that has stood out for you guys that potentially I've missed? Let you know what your highlights are so far. Jack, I actually like our licensing system, Callum, 2019. I've always said I don't have an issue with the certification system within the UK. I say that there's actually a number of benefits for it, and it gives us as a community the ultimate argument, which is people can't go and buy guns. People that are unsuitable can't go and buy guns legally. Therefore, anybody unsuitable using a gun, it's nothing to do with the lawful shooting community, and it gives us that very definite barrier and defense, and you can say, the majority of firearms deaths, I think it's on average about 20 deaths per year due to firearms. On average, only 1 or 2 of those is down to a lawfully owned gun. And yes, I know in America where you don't have the certificates or a certification system, there are still legal and illegal guns, but in the UK it's either certificate holders or non-certificate holders, and all the time that the majority of crime, the majority of fatalities are due to non-certificate holders. It's like, look, that's your fucking problem, right? It's nothing to do with the people that legally hold the guns. So go after the people that don't. And yes, does the certification system or the application system stop gun crime? Absolutely not. I think within the UK, as a specific example, there's big arguments to say it does reduce crime, or certainly it does reduce gun misuse, but criminals will still go and get them. Criminals will still go and break laws and get hold of things that they're not meant to, because, well, they're criminals. That's like, the definition in the name, isn't it? But yes, I've never been I have given compliments to some licensing departments along the way, but I've always been quite critical of the repeat offenders. Let's just say I don't think there's some counties that have just never been very good. So I'm not against the certification our licensing system or certification system in theory, but the application of it in certain parts of the country is just utter dog shite. Jimkin, are you going to set up a studio in the factory unit? Absolutely. That is very much on the cards. It's part of the reason it's part of the difficulty at the moment of doing videos. Previously where we were based, we had a range. We had a gun room that was suitable for filming, and we were able to just sort of crack something out, sit down and film a video. At the moment, there's no real dedicated space for that. We've only been in there since September, late August, and it's taken this long just to really get settled in the space as it is. We've got some big plans in the unit that we're currently in. We are going to be fitting in a mezzanine, which is going to pretty much double the space. And the mezzanine is going to allow us to put dedicated rooms for dedicated processes. Filming and media is very much one of those processes. But I was actually talking to Connors about it. There's a number of videos that I actually want him to do. And I'm very open and honest about it. I'm not a gunsmith. I'm not a professional sort of gun. I'm a professional gun nerd. But I always say, people come in, they've come into gun shops and they've come into Maglo and they're like, oh, I want Callum to work on my gun. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. You think you do. That's why Connors and I get on so well, because when I need something done to my gun, I just hand it to him. I know it's going to be done right. Every time I touch my own guns, something horrendously wrong goes bad. So Connors, he is the guy you want to listen to in terms of tips and tricks and how to do things. So and a lot of what, certainly in the last couple of years, the way that I've always done the channel is when I learn something, then I repeat it. I repeat it for you guys and show you guys what I've learned and how I've figured out how to do something. Now, this used to be very much trial and error for me, but things like what was it? What do they call it? Bedding in scope mounts. That was a whole new process. If you go back and do it, it was the old oh god, what's the stuff called? JB Weld. JB welding the scope mount onto the Remington 700 that I used to have. And the video, if you go back onto the channel, that's the first time I've ever done that, and luckily it went okay. So yeah, very much trial and error with myself, and then showing you how to do something. But having somebody like Connors, which he's just an absolute sort of a technical gun nerd, will want to know about every pin and screw and spring within a gun and how it all's together, and that's part of the reason that Maglo makes so much good such good products is because he's very meticulous about all the small things. So in recent years, it's very much been, you know, he will show me how to do something, like, right, this is the process of doing it, and then I will make a video on it. I don't know, I'd argue that I'm slightly more photogenic in some ways, and I would like to think that I've maybe got a little bit more experience on presenting something, so I tend to learn it from him and then show you guys it. But there's just something like the deep dives. I don't know if you've ever seen the deep dive video that Connors did on the 1301. Like, I would just never attempt something like that myself, but he's able to, like the supernova, he's an absolute whiz on the supernova, but there's no real, I don't think there's a deep dive video of that. So yes, we've been hashing it out over the past few days about how it would work and how we can do it with the current setup, but I want to get him on the channel doing very technical deep dive sort of how-to guides on certain things, because he just knows so much about so many things, and I think it's a waste not relaying that information and sort of that knowledge onto you guys. So yeah, I'll be the mouthy, shouty, political one, giving you your news and letting you know what's going on. I'll still be doing gun reviews, mainly just because, you know, I'm a better shooter than Connors, so, you know, just you might as well have the better shooter telling you which gun to buy, right? And please don't tell him I said that. Even though it's like, you know, it's quite fact. I mean, he must realize it by now, right? So yeah, I'm still going to be doing certain reviews, but we've talked about it. The way that I approach a gun, I come at it from a consumer point of view, and he comes at a gun in terms of its reviews as a very technical, sort of from a gunsmith's point of view. So I think they're very, very different, and definitely want to get him on the channel doing those things. So yeah, having our own dedicated studio in the Unet will facilitate that and make that a lot easier to do going forward. Very much part of it, but we've still got, you know, slowly we're getting there in terms of the layout, the way things are set up, but there's a long list. Well, the mezzanine is sort of part of the next stage, but we've already, you know, we're currently raising funds for other things at the moment, which will hopefully become clear in the near future. So yeah, it's on the list, but it's not, unfortunately, it's not number one priority at the moment. Bring on Connor's healing hands. That's it. Like, you can just take him anything broken, he just heals it. We need to bring back the healing bench. Wyborn, he would be on the channel if you didn't stream at home. He would. He'd be on the channel if you two weren't such moany fucking bastards every time I get you to do a live stream. This is all I get. Why aren't we on the live streams anymore? Because you constantly fucking moan when you are. So you can't have it both ways. And plus, it's far easier doing it from home. I can sit here. I mean, you know, I didn't fancy it tonight, but I've got beer. I've got my own coat. I'm sat here in my slippers, in my underwear, like, and you're none the wiser. I am comfortable as fuck, rather than sat there in a cold, echoey unit with two people that would rather sit there on a live stream on their phones. So yes, that's you ask and you will receive, Paul. Thanks for sharing. Where is the best place for newbies? Any club worth their salt, really. It would be, you know, it depends where you live. You just need to find or maybe you're having a conversation with somebody else. Don't know. Anyway, just don't feed Connors after midnight. I can't say just don't feed him cheese. That's, you know, he's lactose intolerant. You don't want to be anywhere near him when he's had some cheese. Don't start playing games, Paul. Don't you fucking start. Anyway, Paul, like, I'm now getting messages. Paul's trying to stir shit up. Nothing I said was untrue, so deal with it. Anyway, I always ask in terms of input, if there's any sort of videos that you guys want to be done on particular topics or styles of video, like, let me know. We're always open for ideas and suggestions, and at the end of the day, I try to make videos that you guys want. So if there's videos you want, let me know. You can always drop a message, drop an email, or put it in the chat box, and we're trying to get it on. Apparently he's going to cause me pain. Well, it won't be by beating me in a match, that's for sure. Talking of matches, and Magload and Connors, actually, we do have safety courses slots available still for this is the March. So the February one, I've talked about this before. If you want to get into competition, or you want a taste of, not necessarily a taste of competition, but you want a bit of experience of IPSC shooting, and you want to come away hopefully a better shooter than when you arrive, the safety courses that we run are a brilliant introduction into all aspects of sort of long gun IPSC shooting. So we did have 2 dates available. The February one is now full, but we still do have dates available on in Basingstoke on the 26th of March. So head over to maglo.co.uk and search for safety course if you want to get signed on to that, as well as a load of experience and learning a hell of a lot during the day. You will also, as long as you pass, you will get your competition license, and you will be able to then attend level 2 matches and above. So, you know, it's why, yes, it's like, I hate the fact that there are more barriers to getting into the sport, because there's already enough here in the UK, but it means that the level of shooters like within IPSC is very high, because we've all had to do safety courses. There's sort of minimum safety requirements, and therefore that makes the competitors sort of better all round in theory. But yeah, I was talking to somebody about this today, the same person, about the scope, and you know, whilst I've been doing a lot of practical shooting for years prior to ever doing a safety course, there were a hell of a lot of things that I learned on the safety course, and a number of shooting positions that I had never even attempted. So it's a great day overall in experience and knowledge, and we're fortunate that the feedback that we've had back from other courses has been fantastic, and people tend to say they learn a lot from it. So if you want a full day being shouted at by Connors, then go and check it out. And I'm usually around. I don't get involved with the safety courses, other than just, you know, meet and greet. In the morning I usually bugger off and go and shoot the match that's going on with Kentucky, while Connors does the work. But there we go. It works for us, I guess. UK PSA match listings are poor this year, especially for mini rifle and LBP. I disagree. Actually, I thought they were pretty good. We went over the matches, that were available, or the match dates that were being released. I mean, there's no less shotgun. So yes, unfortunately, there's no British Masters anymore. But then we started having the Welsh. So the main shotgun matches each year is usually the Scottish Masters, North Coast Butts. You've got the Borders. I can't remember what all the championships are called, but there's there's the Scottish, there's North Coast Butts, there's Borders, and usually Dartford. So there's usually 4 level 3 shotgun matches. Now, yes, we've lost Dartford, but now there's the Welsh, so that's sort of taken that place. And we seem to be getting a level 3 from the Coats of Iron, which last year was held at North Coats Butts. So, you know, we're up to 5 level 3 national level matches, 5 national level matches within the year. There's 3 level 3 IPSC mini rifles matches. Yes, we'd like to see more, certainly in the run up to the World Shoot, but last year there was only 2 level 3 mini rifles, and now we have 3. So it is growing. There is more matches available and more matches being put on. In terms of LBP, yes, as far as I'm aware, I don't think there are any level 3s, but there's a level 2 at Yevley. Oh, there's no level. Yevely are doing a level 3 mini rifle as well. So yeah, yes, yeah. So that's the additional. That was the additional one. You know, if Silverstone Shooting Centre wanted to, you know, maybe not act like such a dick and get back on board with the UK PSA and the IPSC, would have a 4th mini rifle match. But you know, some people just. I'm just going to leave it there. You know, I mean, you know, somebody that chooses to shoot a Chris Vector. I mean, what more can I say? It's a competition gun. Yeah, of course it is. Look at all the competitions you've won. There's a good show for Action Air. There's only one level 3 though, isn't there? Which you're doing. But plenty of like level 1s, level 2s, mainly due to XPSC. But correct me if I'm wrong. But I think there's only one. Is there only one level 3 this year, Paul? Tony Victor, Connor's runs a good longer course. No, that's good to have confirmation. Tony Victor, 3 mini rifle and 1 LBP. Yes. Yeah, that's what we're saying. KFC looking at level 3 mini rifle. Please, like, do it. Just get it done. Get the extra bays built down at the quarry and run a level 3. Both Connors and I are chomping at the bit to help, you know, to make that happen and to have level 3s held at the quarry. All so far. We'll get some more. But the thing I thought with level 3s, it can take like 6 months for approval or something like that. You've got to have like 6 months of, you know, notice to be able to get level 3 going on. Silverback Gorilla Gaming, what's up, Callum? Nothing much. Pretty chilled actually. Pretty good. Hope the same for you. Good question for you all. What's the average amount you spend on your day out shoot, except ammo, except and clays, except? I guess it. I mean, you're coming at it from a clay point of view. But I think watching now, it won't just be clay shooters. You know, you're talking, there'll be people that are, you know, they're shooting airsoft, they're shooting air rifle, they shoot clays, it's practical, it's, you know, long distance rifle, it's 2.2 rifle, it's plinkers, stuff like that. So it really depends what you're doing. In terms of clay pigeon shooting, certainly from my experience, the average amount that I'll shoot is 100 clays. I think it's either 50 or 100 that most people shoot, but I tend to go for the full 50. What's the price of clays now? What, like 35p a clay? So you're talking 35 quid for 100 clays, and then cartridges, you know, 100 cartridges. Well, if you go 1 for 1, you normally need an extra box. What is it, a £5 a box? So, you know, you're talking another 20 quid. So for clays, you know, you could easily be talking 55, maybe 60 quid, depending on what cartridges you're using and how much the clays are, which ground you're going to. And then fuel, well, it depends where you're going in terms of fuel and mill out. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if all in, if you take into account lunch and travel, and, you know, getting a tea or a coffee or a drink or something like that, you're probably talking like, you know, a good, you know, 75, £100 to go and do 100 clay somewhere. You know, that's, you know, so the other day we went out to Spitfire, first time that I've been there for a very long time, and really shouldn't leave it that long, and we did make a day of it. We turned up there, chilled in the clubhouse, waiting for a friend who was running a bit late. All went and did 100 clays. And then we went out and got pizza in Stockbridge. So, you know, that would have probably been, I think, like 15-20 quid a head just for the food. We've already spent, say, 55 quid on the clays and cartridges, and it was probably a tenner in fuel to get there. So yeah, you know, 85-90 quid for that day per person. But then you don't have to do it that expensive. You don't have to go and buy particularly expensive cartridges. You don't have to go and shoot 100 clays. You know, you can break up the day. You know, we literally went from stand to stand, start to finish, and shot the 100 clays. You could shoot 50 clays. You could go do a couple of stands, and then maybe come in for a coffee and stretch it out a bit. And certainly if you take a bigger group, it naturally slows things down, and you spend more time out the range and having a chat, which is, the best bit of shooting is actually the social element of it. You spend, no matter what discipline you do within shooting, you end up spending more time stood around in the cold talking than you do actually pulling the trigger. Be that clays or practical, certainly practical. We've broken it down before, like going up to Scotland, like a 7-8 hour drive for, I think we worked it out, it was something like 2 minutes worth of shooting. We spent 3 days up there, a total of like 14 hours of driving for 2 minutes shooting. And you'll be on a range from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 4-5 o'clock. Again, you spend a lot more time stood around talking. But yeah, in terms of practical shooting, you can be, the sky's the limit in terms of what you could potentially spend on ammunition. But a typical match, well, let's have a look on practice score. Let's find a UK PSA match. So the Welsh level 3, is there actually enough details now? No, there isn't. Great. Usually they put that round. Oh, here we go. No, they haven't got like breakdown. Usually they do. Let's see if I can find CISO. Let's have a look at CISO. See if they've got a round count yet. No. Anyway, you can be talking of like even a level 3. Probably talking like 150-200 rounds for a level 3. And that can be mixed, certainly with shotgun. You've got buckshot, slug, and birdshot. So that, certainly the slugs, you get a particularly heavy slug stage. I mean, it was a long slug stage last time, and I think people were going through like a good 25-30 rounds of slug. Plus there was another smaller slug stage. So, you could be talking 2 boxes of slug. That could end up being 40-50 quid on its own in ammunition. But anyway, Gez Roberts, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate supporting the channel. It might be pricey, but clay pigeon shooting is funner than golf. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. What social medias can you follow you on? So EnglishShooting has a Instagram, a Facebook, and also a Twitter. To be honest, I was having this discussion. I was chatting to my dad about it. My dad loves Twitter, mainly because he's got an anonymous account on there, and he can actually tell people what he thinks of them. But I wonder where I get it from. But I was having this discussion. EnglishShooting does have a Twitter account. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to go on there and not argue with fuckwits. I end up spending a lot of time arguing with antis. It's just not, I've never found it particularly constructive. But there is where you can follow us on there, but I don't go on Twitter that much. But Instagram should be posting a lot more on there, but we do post to Instagram, and Facebook. Very active on Facebook, the EnglishShooting Facebook page, and there is also an EnglishShooting Facebook group that you can go and find as well. And I say it all the time, but if you want like the latest news, a lot of what I do on the live stream is based on the posts throughout the week on the Facebook page. When there's a new video, I always post it up on the Facebook page as well. So it's really the instant, what is going on at that exact moment. That's like the Facebook, and then obviously the YouTube's sort of like the main thing of the channel. But yeah, if you want to go and follow on those, that would be greatly appreciated. What's the best buckshot? Help anyone. The best buckshot is made by Andy Duffy. So if you're in the UK, get in contact with Andy Duffy. He makes this buffered buckshot, and it's got this, like, I don't actually know what it is, but it's almost like a salt, like it's this sort of granular powder, that and they're all home loads. So he makes these buckshot and ends up selling them at the match, but they are like some of the most accurate buckshot that anybody's ever used. So he's got this like secret recipe. It's like everyone goes when there's a match there and there's buckshot, he'll be there at the back of his car selling selling boxes of buckshot to people. Y-boy or Paul, round count for IPSC isn't the kicker, it's the total time spent actually shooting, going all the way to Holland for such open and shooting for 300 seconds over 3 days. Yeah, and imagine like the world shoots, going out to a world shoot, you know, flying out to Thailand for say the shotgun or handgun, and you know, do you think of the cost and the amount of time spent for those, you know, I know it's like 24 stages, but even if you say what, like 20-second average for a stage, what you're talking 400, around say 400 seconds, like nearly 500 seconds. So yeah, you're still talking like minutes worth of shooting. David Kiddle, Kentucky mention. subtle, but thank you for the reminder. I mean, I'm slowly getting through. I've got this like, I use the tabs on the browser as my like, you know, what to talk about, what to get onto, and I've got to close them before I mention Kentucky. Before I forget, because I was meant to talk about this last week. Again, another video. I posted this on the English Shooting Facebook page. But another video that I think is well worth a watch for a variety of different reasons is this one. Now, the title is very clickbaity and all that, how I broke the world record for the longest kill. And this is, of course, Craig Harrison, who did hold the longest confirmed kill record. I believe it's been beaten now, but he is British and I believe also works for Accuracy International. A very interesting person all round, but it's an incredible video, not a particularly long one, only 14 minutes. But what the video ended up turning into, whilst they talk about the shot and the setup to it, and a bit about his shooting background, and you know how snipers operate and all that, which is fascinating, it actually goes more into like the human aspect, and the toll that not just was taken on him, but a number of people that end up going and doing this job. And you know, in a way, not necessarily selfish, but you forget that I think we can be a bit, you know, the conversation of, you know, longest shot and longest confirmed kill, and you know what gun was used, and oh my god, this guy is just an absolute machine. He can accurately shoot at like, you know, mile and a half and whatever. But we forget actually that, you know, what they are going out there and doing, what they end up going through, and what psychological toll that takes on them. So this really just drums home the effect that it's had on him. And yeah, maybe we need to be a little bit more, what's the word? We just need to be a bit more conscious, rather than just talking about these, you know, longest confirmed kill. You know, bring up that human element, you know, what these people give up and what they give up for their country and what they do for us. Of course, I don't think there's gonna be anybody here watching that doesn't have a huge amount of respect for, you know, military and law enforcement and, you know, emergency services and all that. But I think it's very easy to forget sometimes what these guys end up going through, and what they, you know, eventually end up effectively giving up for their country. You know, the phrase, you know, leaving a piece of you out there. I think he even uses that phrase and says about that there's always going to be a piece of him out in those war zones, sort of left behind. But yeah, it's a fascinating video, like quite an emotionally charged video as well. But yeah, another reason to head off to the British Shooting Show, because I believe he was actually at the last British Shooting Show a couple of years ago on the Accuracy International stand. So, you know, if you happen to bump into him and you see him at a show, you know, yes, I'm sure the first thing going to be is like, what was it like with that shot? Like, and you talk about the shot, but just, you know, like, thank him. You know, if you see him, rather than fangirling all over him about the shot, you know, you can tell watching this video how, you know, difficult it's been in terms of coming back into normal life. So thank him first and foremost, and then get all nerdy about the guns and what he's done with them. I think the current is 3,700 yards or something mad. Yeah, that is, yeah, it's absolutely crazy, isn't it? What they're able to do. Yeah, beaten twice, I think now. Yeah, that's what I believe, as well. But yes, David, to keep you happy. So do regularly talk about American shooting trips. Of course, if you've been a long-term viewer and subscriber, on that note, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell and write a comment and share it, and I don't know, whatever else you can do. But if you've been subscribed to this channel for a long time, you would have seen our trips out to Utah. So it's Utah that I've been to twice with American shooting trips. And for the last 2 years, we have desperately been trying to get out to Kentucky, which is where, well, it's sort of it's the namesake of Kentucky Firearms Club, and where American shooting trips sort of started, and then they started doing the Utah trip. So I'd never had the chance to go to Kentucky, and obviously COVID has prolonged that. But it's all now confirmed. It's all now booked and ready, and you know, we got our flights, we've got our car sorted, we've got the accommodation sorted. The accommodation, well, we're sharing with a number of people, so we've got this huge like lakeside house, which is going to be the sort of home and hub of everything that we do out there. So yeah, very much looking forward to it. And David has said there are still 6 spaces left on the week that we're going out. So we're going 18th till the 24th, I think it is. No, 18th to 22nd. I should really know these. I spent a whole day yesterday booking everything. So 18th to the 22nd is the shooting package, the Monday to the Friday. There is also another shooting package the weekend after. So David, because there hasn't been one for a couple of years, David's running 2 trips back to back in Kentucky. Some people are doing 2 weeks, some are doing the week before, the first week, which is what we're doing. Some people are doing the week before, so the week after. So there's 6 spaces available on the week that I'm going out on, and there's going to be Connors, there's going to be myself, there's Paul, Arias from Outdoor Technica. If you watch his videos, is going to be on there, and of course the man himself, the man, the myth, the baking, Mr. Daniel Smerald will be there as well. So I don't know whether that's a selling point or not, but we are very much looking forward to it. What's this? I'll push Callum in the lake for a tenner. The more donations, the harder the push. Like, I'm 3 times your weight, Paul. Like, you can't push this. Connors and I will push you into the lake. Daniel's already putting a snapping turtle in my bed. Yeah, and I think that's a euphemism for something. But yeah, we've got all that booked, and just as a bit of a recap, this is there's loads of reasons that I've been wanting to go out on this trip, but we are really taking it to another level, and I think there is going to be content for absolute months out of this, because we're doing a massive tour. If you haven't already, we haven't talked about it for a while, but just as a quick recap, so we're flying into Chicago, we're going to be coming across into Iowa, and then driving down all the way into Texas. Now, how far we end up going left, like the rough route, Chicago, Iowa, and then, you know, whether we come and do a wide arc down into Texas, or we do a shorter, more direct route. But we're going to be going to all the major cities. Well, I say all the major ones, but we're going to be going to at least Dallas and Houston. and potentially try and get over into San Antonio, and then we're going to come right across the south. So again, like how far south we go, or how far how far up we go, not particularly nailed down yet, but we're going to come across. We'll most definitely be stopping off in Birmingham, Alabama, because Callaway Ballistics, who do regularly watch the channel, they've very kindly invited us up and have said, I think they've got at least one, but I think 2 G18s, so definitely stopping off there. We're going to hit the range, and then the plan is to go all across Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, come back across into Tennessee, and then up into Kentucky. So this is where the range is. So Madisonville is the nearest place, and I believe we are staying in Crofton. That's where the lake house is. It's going to take me a while to find it, but we're about 45 minutes away from the range. And let's have a look. I think this is the right one. Correct me if I'm wrong, David. But basically a big slab of do whatever the fuck you want. So and David has told me multiple times about doing a lake stage, shooting from a boat across the lake. I can now understand why that's possible. That's really the long and the short of it, of the rough plans that we have at the moment. It's going to be absolutely epic. We're going to try and obviously do as much shooting as possible in as many different states, but we'll be stopping off at gun shops and sort of firearm, museums and ammunition manufacturers, and I'm going to try my best to get hold of maybe some bigger, more prominent gun YouTubers, because we're going to be driving past so many of them, and really try and maybe do some collaborations with some channels, both big and small. So there's going to be oodles of content coming from that. I don't know if I want to necessarily commit to a daily vlog of the trip, but there will be vlogging from it, most definitely. At the bare minimum, I'll be doing the daily vlogs of the American shooting trip. So those 5 days of shooting will be daily vlogged 100%, and I will definitely be vlogging the trip, whether that's daily or sort of do a week summary of one big video, I don't know, but we're going to be filming every day. There's going to be stuff that we are doing and that I'm going to want to show you guys that you're probably hopefully going to want to see. So it's just going to be absolutely epic, and we're very much looking forward to it. David confirming, yes, that is the range. So I got that right. But 6 spaces. Obviously, there's unfortunately no space to come and join us on the trip around. So we're doing that the week and a half before. So we're flying out much earlier than the 18th, and we will be doing this massive road trip in beforehand, and then spending 5 days on the range with American shooting trips. Ricochet, I'd love to come out and meet you guys in Kentucky. I could bring a bunch of guns and you can shoot as much as you want. That would be absolutely amazing. Well, that's another thing I hadn't even thought of, is holding like an invitation, an open invitation for anyone to come down the range. I mean, I think we're aiming to arrive in Kentucky maybe the Saturday, so I don't know. I'd have to clear it with David, obviously, but there maybe the Sunday we have like a meet and greet, anybody over stateside that want to come down to the range and hang out and bring some toys and show us how to really enjoy some freedom. That would just be absolutely awesome. Daniel, bearing in mind you're a moderator, do you think that's an appropriate thing to put out there? Silverback Gorilla Gaming. Hey Callum, would you ever be interested in trying to beat me at a clay pigeon comp? I'll give it a go. I'm not the worst clay pigeon shooter out there, but I'm certainly not the best. I'm always up for a bit of competition. Kentucky is only a few hours drive from where you live. Yeah, so yeah, please do come down. David said there's no problem with that. So yeah, we can definitely. There's so much more to be planned. Luckily, there's still a few months away, but yeah, there's going to be maybe we can do like various little meets around the States. That would be cool. £200 you can beat me. I don't know. I feel like I'm being hustled here. What about lunch? Bet lunch. So one, I think I've covered pretty much everything apart from one point, which it's not really like a sporting point, but an interesting point nonetheless, which I actually is sort of a testament to how strict our gun laws here in the UK. So I'm sure you're probably already sick of tired of hearing about it, but Prince Harry won't come back to the UK unless he has armed security. Now, it's a little bit of an odd one because it's like when the president comes, they come with their own armed security with their own guns. But then that's a foreign dignitary, it's the president of the United States, but it's not just the president. When other world leaders come over, they will be allowed their own armed security. And of course, the royal family here in the UK are protected by the police. They don't have, well, you could technically say that Grenadier Guards is a private army, but they don't have their own private security here in the UK. Again, mainly down to our sort of firearms laws, because it has to be police, because those are the only ones legally allowed to have guns. Even though, again, when world leaders come over, they have their own armed security. It all gets very messy. But Prince Harry, obviously being stripped of titles, technically not being a working royal, not in an official capacity anyway, is no longer privy to his own security or provided security. And interestingly, I'm doing a bit of research on this. They actually have to pay for their own security out in America. But of course, being America, being able to have concealed carry, have guns for self-defense, they're able to pay somebody to walk around their house with a gun and keep them safe. And it's predicted that it costs them £2.5 million a year to pay for that. Again, a private profiteering firm. Funnily enough, there was also estimates where he had, when they were in Canada, they had at least 6 officers from Scotland Yard protecting him. So and they estimated the cost per officer was about £100,000 per year. So you're talking to a cost to the taxpayer of at least £500,000. But anyway, he said, like, I want the Met Police to protect me when I come over, and the Met Police are like, well, you're not royalty anymore, right? Yeah, you might be a prince by name, but you're not under our remit to protect anymore, because you're just a normal citizen as far as we're concerned. And it's interesting that the Met Police, well, it's not interesting, it's the way it bloody well should be, but the Met Police can't be bought. They're not a private security firm. You can't just chuck them a load of money just because you think you're really important and you've got a bit of money and you want armed security. But then he can't, because of our laws, he can't go and pay somebody to protect him. So it's sort of this weird double-edged sword. Well, not double-edged sword, but this sort of catch-22 for him. The police are not for sale. They're not a private security firm. And because of our laws, he can't have security. So no security for Prince Harry, and he's saying it's far too dangerous, mainly because he's not exactly Mr. Popular at the moment. I think it's pretty smart of him to maybe realise that there's probably a lot of people that probably would want to do him harm. So but it's just a testament of even a prince, even a prince of the British monarchy can't get armed security here in the UK, not through paying it or pressuring the police. Silverback, try the UK Discord. Luckily, I have the link ready to go. This is the Discord. I tend to try and give these guys out when I remember a shout. So the UK Discord, if you don't know what a Discord is, it's like a very instant forum. There's UK shooting Discord. You don't just have to be in the UK to be in there. There's loads of international shooters, but it's all about UK shooting. It's a big growing group. There's like over 500 members now. It's really, really active. There's usually like 100 members online, all having various different chats and there's various different sort of areas of it. So you can go and talk specifically about air guns. There's even like a car bit of it if you want to go and talk about cars and so on and so forth. So, and there's even a meme area, which I would definitely avoid at all costs. But yeah, if you want to go and join the Discord and talk with like-minded individuals, then hit that link, and then we can then you can go and join. And you know, I try to hang out in there when I have time, but it's just been there's not been a lot of that recently. Well, Harry does have a 100 million deal with Netflix. Well, absolutely. It just goes to show that even somebody, you know, as prominent as him with as much money as he does, still can't still can't get armed security in the UK. And the thing is, I think actually it's a very good case. It's a very good case to say, like, you know, you could argue, yeah, like somebody like that. Well, if one person can, then everybody should, right? It's and I think that's potentially, you know, there's always people always say, well, you know, the MPs are protected by armed security, the Queen is protected by armed security, but all us peasants have to, you know, phone 999 and wait a good half an hour for anybody to come and help when we're in danger. And I think potentially that's why they're being so strict with it, because it's like, well, he's not officially a royal anymore, so if he comes in and he gets protection, like, that's going to set a really bad precedent. So, you know, when Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos comes in, are they going to start getting armed security? And then where does it go from there? So I don't know. Maybe Harry should get on board with, you know, joining the UK shooting community and firearms owning community and pushing forward to get a few things changed if he feels that obviously it's that dangerous. It's far too dangerous for him to come to the UK. You know, there must be a reason for it, and there must also be a solution for it. Is it possible to direct message you directly? Absolutely. You can send an email, EnglishShooting@gmail.com, or you can Facebook message. Email is always the best way to reach, because I flag it and I always see it. Like Messenger, like Facebook page Messenger, I'm like, it just, things get lost. But yeah, emails, I'm like religious about clearing down my emails. So yeah, EnglishShooting@gmail.com. Send it there, and 100% will get back to you. And that goes for anyone. And, you know, any questions that you guys have, if you want to get in touch, if you want to, you know, for any reason at all, then please feel free, get in touch. Just use that email. Tony Victor, it's ironic that Harry spent the first part of his life trying to evade his personal security team. Now he's whining that he needs one. How very true. Daniel, the house is outside the city limits. I think so. Yeah, it very much is. You can shoot at the house, but we need guns to be able to shoot at the house. And I don't know. I mean, Daniel's technically an American. Anyway, before I head off, and before potentially you head off, hit the like button. It really does make a difference. Make sure you're subscribed. But I am going to call it there for this evening. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you've enjoyed this evening. It has been a reasonably slow news week overall. So I hope there wasn't too much babbling through the live stream. But yes, loads of videos planned to be released. I'm doing my very best to get more review videos out, more technical sort of gun bench videos out there. Still got the Coats of Iron video to release, which I'm still editing, and also a couple of others that I've been working on for far too long. But yeah, big thanks for everyone for coming and hanging out and joining the live stream. I really hope you've all enjoyed it. Have a fantastic week. Hope you all managed to get some shooting in over the weekend. The evenings are getting lighter. Weather seems to be pretty, a little cold and crisp, but it's been pretty good recently. So hopefully you're able to get there on the range and fire some lead down range over this weekend or the next coming weeks. But yes, we do this, of course, every Thursday, 7:30 UK time, 7:30 PM. So if you've enjoyed it, if this is your first time watching, you can join every single week. And yeah, who knows what the next week has to hold. But yeah, we'll do it same place, same time next weekend. And of course, before I go, and as always, I hope to see you soon.